The airport was buzzing with chaos that evening, families rushing with overstuffed bags, business travelers glued to their phones, and children tugging at their parents' hands. Amid the crowd, a young woman named Emily sat quietly at gate 27, clutching a ticket she had worked years to afford. For her, this wasn't just a ticket, it was her escape, her future, her shot at a new life. She had been accepted into a graduate program in New York, something she thought she'd never achieve after growing up in a small town where dreams were often too big to fit. Every dollar she had earned from waiting tables, tutoring kids, and working extra shifts had gone into this one chance. Tonight was supposed to be the night she finally took flight toward the life she had been building in her heart. But then, something caught her attention. Just a few feet away at the service counter stood a man in a wrinkled suit, his hair slightly messy, his tie loose, carrying a small child who looked no older than 4. The girl was clinging to his neck, her cheeks flushed, her tiny arms trembling from exhaustion. The father's voice cracked as he pleaded with the gate agent. His flight had been misbooked, he explained, and the next available one wasn't for hours. His daughter was sick, worn out, and couldn't handle waiting that long in the cold, noisy terminal. He asked again if there was anything that could be done. The attendant's answer was the same. The flight was fully booked. No exceptions. Emily could see the man's shoulders slump as he whispered something soothing to his daughter, though his own voice was strained with desperation. For a moment, the world around her went quiet. She no longer heard the boarding announcements or the shuffle of rushing feet. All she could see was a father at his breaking point, holding on to the only thing that mattered in his world. And all she could hear was the sound of the little girl's soft sobs muffled against his chest. Her hand tightened around her ticket. This was her dream, her everything. If she didn't take this flight, she would miss her program orientation, lose her scholarship, maybe even the entire chance to change her future. She thought about her mother back home, who had skipped meals to help her save money, about the hours she spent studying late into the night, about how much this ticket meant. Her throat closed as her mind battled between reason and compassion. And then, before she could stop herself, Emily stood. Her legs felt heavy, but her heart was light with a strange, undeniable pull. She walked to the counter, and with a voice steadier than she felt, she said, "Give him my seat." The gate agent looked up in shock. "Ma'am, are you sure?" "This is a non-refundable." "I'm sure," Emily interrupted softly, glancing at the father who was now staring at her in disbelief. "He needs it more than I do. His daughter needs it." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The father blinked, his lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Finally, he managed a whisper, thick with emotion. You can't be serious. You'll lose your flight." Emily forced a smile, though her heart was breaking inside. "It's okay. Just take care of her." Within minutes, the transfer was made. The man, still overwhelmed, murmured his thanks again and again, but Emily only nodded, her eyes on the little girl who had already fallen asleep on her father's shoulder. Then, before she could even process what she had done, they disappeared through the gate, boarding the plane that was supposed to be hers. When the doors closed, Emily sat back down in the now quiet terminal. Her hands shook, and for the first time that night, tears threatened to spill. She had given away her dream. Everything she had fought for, gone in a single decision. But deep down, she also felt something else, something warm, something right. She had saved a child from suffering, and that mattered more than any program, any scholarship, any dream. At least, that's what she tried to tell herself as her chest ached with regret. The hours dragged on. By the time she got home, the reality had settled like a heavy stone in her stomach. Days passed, and with each one, her chance to start school slipped further away. She returned to her small job at a local diner, trying to convince herself she had done the right thing, even though it felt like her own future had been ripped from her hands. Customers came and went, but every time she saw a father holding his child, she thought of that night at the airport and wondered if she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Then one morning, as she was clearing tables after the breakfast rush, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Everyone in the diner turned to look as 2 men in suits stepped in. They asked for her by name, and Emily froze, confused and nervous. They handed her an envelope sealed with gold embossing. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a letter that began with 4 words that made her breath catch. "You saved my world." It was from the man at the airport. His name, she learned, was Daniel Carter, one of the most powerful billionaire CEOs in the country, head of a multinational corporation with influence in nearly every industry. He explained that his daughter had been recovering from a medical condition, and that delay at the airport could have worsened her fragile state. Emily hadn't just given up her seat, she had given him the chance to get his daughter safely home when she needed it most. He wrote that her selflessness had shaken him, reminding him of values he had almost forgotten in the ruthless world of business. He asked her to meet him. Shocked and overwhelmed, Emily agreed. A few days later, she found herself standing in the marble lobby of a towering skyscraper in New York City. The glass walls stretched toward the sky, and the place radiated wealth and power. She was ushered upstairs to a vast office where Daniel stood waiting. But when he looked at her, there was no arrogance, no superiority. There was only gratitude. "You gave up your dream for me and my daughter," he said, his voice low and thick with sincerity. "I can never forget that." His little girl, now bright-eyed and healthy, peeked out from behind his desk, clutching a stuffed bunny. She ran to Emily and hugged her legs with a soft, "Thank you." Emily bent down, tears welling in her eyes as she hugged the child back. Daniel gestured for her to sit, then slid a folder across the desk. Inside, Emily found documents that made her gasp. A full scholarship to her program, housing arrangements, living expenses, even an internship lined up in his company. "I pulled every string I could," Daniel said. "You gave up everything for us. Let me give it back to you tenfold." Emily's eyes blurred with tears as she shook her head. "I didn't do it for this. I just wanted your daughter to be okay. And that," Daniel replied gently, "is exactly why you deserve it." From that day forward, Emily's life changed in ways she never imagined. She boarded a plane not long after, this time with a ticket secured by gratitude, not sacrifice. Her dreams no longer felt fragile, because they were backed by a lesson she would carry forever. True kindness never disappears. It finds its way back, sometimes in the most unexpected and extraordinary forms. As her plane lifted into the clouds, Emily looked out the window with a heart overflowing with hope. She had given up a seat once, but what she gained was far greater, the proof that compassion has the power to rewrite destinies. And for millions who later heard her story, it became a reminder that one act of selflessness can echo louder than any wealth, any title, any dream.